If the power grid dies tonight and you get one chance, one fire, one controlled burn, would you waste it chasing flames all night? Or would you turn that fire into a 24-hour heat battery? Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The flame is temporary, but the heat doesn't have to be. Most people think survival warmth comes from constant burning. They imagine feeding logs every hour, guarding embers like it's medieval times. But fire is expensive. Wood runs out, energy runs out, you run out, and hypothermia doesn't wait politely while you split another log. Your body starts failing at 35 degrees Celsius core temperature. Judgment slips. Hands stop working. You don't feel freezing, you just get sleepy. That's how people die 10 feet from shelter. So listen carefully. The real survival strategy isn't to build a bigger fire. It's to build something that remembers the fire. That something is thermal mass. Stone, brick, concrete, earth, materials that absorb enormous amounts of heat energy and release it slowly, hour after hour, long after the flames are gone. Physics calls it specific heat capacity, the amount of energy required to raise a substance's temperature. Air has almost none. That's why heating a tent full of air is like trying to warm the outdoors. You're pouring energy into something that escapes through every crack. But dense materials? They're different. They resist temperature change, and that resistance is exactly what keeps you alive. Here's what that means in real survival terms. Instead of burning wood all night, you burn hot and fast for a short window. High temperature creates a strong thermal gradient. The bigger the difference between flame and stone, the faster energy transfers. That's basic thermodynamics. A clean, intense fire transfers more usable heat into mass than a smoky, lazy one. So you gather dense rocks, dry ones, never wet river stones that can explode from trapped moisture, and stack them around and above your fire so hot gases flow across maximum surface area. You're not just building a fire pit, you're charging a battery. Those stones might not glow dramatically, but inside, molecular vibration is ramping up. Energy is being stored in lattice structures. When the fire dies, those vibrating molecules don't just stop, they slowly release energy as infrared radiation. That's the warmth you feel on your skin hours later. Old masonry heaters in cold European climates worked on this exact principle. One fierce morning, burn heated a multi-ton stone structure, and it radiated steady warmth all day, with no flame at all. That isn't folklore. That's heat transfer science refined over centuries. And if you're improvising in a blackout or winter grid failure, you can replicate the principle at smaller scale, heat mass intensely, then insulate it to slow heat loss. Because here's the next problem. Once your mass is hot, the environment will try to steal that energy back. Conduction through the ground, convection through moving air, radiation into cold surfaces. So you fight back, you insulate. Ash, soil, packed snow, wool blankets, anything that slows airflow and reduces temperature exchange. Insulation doesn't create heat. It delays its escape. And time is survival. Now let's talk about the silent giant most people ignore. Water. 1 liter of water absorbs over 4 times more energy per degree than stone. That's why oceans stabilize entire climates. In survival terms, sealed metal containers filled with water placed near, not inside, the fire become thermal anchors. As they heat, they store huge energy without looking dramatic. No glowing red surface, no crackling noise, just quiet stored heat. Later, as air temperature drops, that stored energy flows back out gradually. Line a shelter wall with filled canisters. Slide warm water bottles into bedding. You're leveraging physics at molecular scale to defend your body's core temperature. And your body's doing its own thermal math at the same time. Humans lose heat through radiation, convection, conduction, and evaporation. Block wind and you reduce convective loss immediately. Sit facing warm mass and you absorb radiant energy directly. Infrared travels in straight lines like invisible sunlight. That's why one side of you feels roasted at a campfire while the other side freezes. Position matters. Distance matters. Surface area matters. The closer you are to radiating mass, the more energy you intercept before it disperses into useless space. Then there's the ground beneath you. Below the frost line, soil temperature is surprisingly stable. Digging even a shallow pit shelter reduces exposure to wind and taps into earth that's often significantly warmer than night air. When you line that pit with stone, burn hot, then cover the cleared coals with a slab and soil, you're not just warming rocks, you're warming the earth itself. Soil has significant thermal mass. It stores and releases slowly. That buried warmth seeps upward for hours. Combine that with tight draft control, because even small air leaks multiply heat loss exponentially, and suddenly one short fire can carry you through the night. Military cold weather survival doctrine emphasizes shelter first, fire second, precisely because trapped heat outperforms exposed flame. The equation is simple: store more than you lose, slow the loss rate below the release rate, and temperature stabilizes instead of collapsing. That's the difference between shivering at 3 a.m. and sleeping. And here's the slightly dark punchline: you don't need a roaring inferno. You need controlled intensity, dense mass, insulation, and intelligent positioning. Fire is not the goal. Heat retention is. Master that, and one fire becomes 24 hours of survivable warmth. Ignore it, and you'll spend the night feeding flames that vanish the moment you close your eyes.